Welcome back, Chooms, to another Cyberpunk 2077 mod list that I use in my own playthrough. We have about 30 plus mods to go through, and as always each mod is timestamped for easier navigation, and if you are new to modding, check out my beginner's guide before jumping into this. First off, we will start with gameplay enhancement mods, with Gambling Roulette System mod that allows you to play roulette. Gamba was always one of the heavily requested features, and it's sad it was only featured through a mission in Phantom Liberty without an option in free roam. Once you have the mod, go to the Ho-Oh bar in Kabuki or Tiger Claw's underground casino in Charter Hill. Once you are there, approach the table, and as we can see, you can actually buy chips and then either gamble on red, black or other numbers. Of course, you can bet on as many things as you want and then roll it. It's fun if you want to make some money or lose some money at the same time, depending on you. But overall, highly recommend this mod alongside with the Gambling Props mod for Appearance Menu mod to make things stand out with decor. Next up, we have another mod from Deceptius called Immersive Fixers, which changes how V is introduced with them through the game to make it less abrupt and more streamlined. Example being that Wakako directs V to Regina after lockdown ends. Dino, El Capitan, Dakota and Mr. Hands will introduce themselves after seeing V handle NCPD scanner missions in their districts and so on. Really recommend this one, especially if you are starting a new playthrough. Another amazing mod from Deceptius is about adding V's friends and romantic interests ability to ride on the roller coaster. So once you have the mod, once you open up the text, you will see that you can call them to Pacifica, and once they arrive, you can go on it together, with Johnny appearing as well in repeatable rides, which is really cool, alongside also with Songbird. Next mod on the list is about vehicles, because Enhanced Vehicle System allows you to have more functionality in the vehicle, giving you the ability to start the engine or shut it off, lower down windows, open doors, toggle lights in the car and much more. You have keybinds for everything including the keyboard and controller, and also keep in mind that most cars with this mod will be shut down, so remember to start the engine once you get into them. Very cool mod for more immersion that I recommend. Another really cool mod is also responsive NPCs that makes NPCs actually react to V. What you wear, carrying weapons for example in corpo locations or districts like Corpo Plaza, City Center will trigger NCPD detection. If you honk at an NPC, there is a chance they will honk back, and so much more. I love this mod because it makes the world more alive, at least in some sense. Maybe not noticeable at first, but as you play you really start getting it, especially if you walk around naked with V, most people will have a comment on it. Definitely check out this mod as well. Another small gameplay enhancement mod is inside the NCART stations, which allows V to enter into NCART station behind those locked doors. Keep in mind you still have to get the train, and select the station. You can't just walk into a train sadly directly, because at least, it opens up some areas, which is a step in the right direction, because I hope that in the Cyberpunk sequel this implement, is done fully, being able to set foot inside the NCART without loading screens or scenarios which play out when you basically enter now, which is the case with Cyberpunk 2077, or at least the official implementation. Next mod is probably one of the most requested features since even before the game was coming out, and that's wall running. This mod allows you to run on walls, at least to some extent. It takes a bit to get used to, being it won't always grip that surface right away, but there were situations where I found this very useful, especially running away from NCPD or just parkouring around. Overall, don't expect miracles, but implementation of the mod is pretty good. As you can see, I can go from one building to another using wall running, and it's kind of more like, almost Spider-Man like, the way, like, for example, V grips onto a surface, but, relatively good for testing out and playing around with. Next mod is about weather changes and weather in general, because this optimizes actual weather changes, as we can see in this graph right here, and also adds some extra weather options. If you go into settings, well, for example, if you press tilde, which you would actually go into your CyberEngine tweaks, you can see what sort of weather we can either select and change it right away, or just play the game and let the mod work for itself. I found these transitions to be really good compared to the base game, and overall just gives more changes to each day in Night City. You know, it's relatively going to be different due to those weather changes. But it's not annoying to the point where the weather is constantly changing, which is very nice, and honestly like the difference of just weather effects and how they change is just well done in general. Another quality of life gameplay mod is Nova Scanner. This scanner UI is more minimalistic compared to the vanilla one and some other mod options. As you can see in the gameplay, it just doesn't, tint the screen, giving you a clearer image, and even just scouting around is better, being that there isn't a lot of clutter. And I noticed that in combat it helped a lot because, well, this minimalism helps if you encounter more enemies and you want to just see them better, especially at night. Recommend getting this one. Next up is one of my favorite relatively new mods, and that's FSR3 Frame Gen for any GPU type. So this allows you to enable frame generation tech which is not available, especially if you don't have, let's say, 4X series of NVIDIA GPUs. And because FSR3 in general is still not available officially in the game, having a mod is nice. Installation is also super easy. Select the version of the GPU you have, that being NVIDIA, AMD or Intel, and turn it on in the actual settings. After testing this for a while, I can say that this almost doubles my frame rate. Running this on ultra ray tracing with ultra settings gave me around 80 frames, while without it I get around 40. Even with pad tracing, this doubled my frame rate to go into 40s and even 50s, but of course there is some artifacting here and there. I mean, you can definitely see, like, with pad tracing, especially on, 3070 Ti, which is my GPU. But if you use it just with ray tracing, quality, for example, of these images remains really good while doing wonders for my frame rate. I mean, to be honest, even if you don't want ray tracing and are having issues with frames because maybe you have a mid-tier or a lower tier PC, check this one out. A lot of people with like those PCs got a very decent boost out of it. Another cool mod which doesn't have too much functionality right now, but at least opens up some spots, is the New Dawn Beyond Night City, which allows you to go across the actual border and even visit the starting town for the Nomad life path. It's empty of course, but at least you can visit it. Remember, you can either lower the blockade with hacking or run through it, but keep in mind you have to run really fast, being that, Militech and NCPD and everyone else are not happy to see you leave just like that. After gameplay mods, let's jump into loot mods, which change how color-wise your game is going to look. Keep in mind, loots here don't require reshade, meaning that you can just install it as you would any mod and benefit from it. And my two trusted looks, which I kinda play around with from time to time, is first Supernova, that gives a less vibrant, more realistic look to the game, which I know some people like, some dislike, which works great actually when it's raining or it's cloudy, but even during sunny days it's been very nice. I've been using this one a lot for some B-roll footage and I'm really happy with it. Next option though is the vibrant loot, that well adds more vibrance and colors to the city, making them pop out even more. This is for people who don't want a more realistic down-to-earth look, but rather one which enhances Night City's colors, LEDs and just the vibe you get in it. Keep in mind, always have one loot installed because they don't work, one on top of another. Also Cyanide has some very good options for like other loots which I covered in the past, so check them out, or which you can find on the profile. And one of those extra loots is also hard loot, which is a bit different to these two because it plays around with cool and warm tones, giving you a bit of this pinkish cyan vibe that can look really cool, especially if you pair it with ray tracing, especially with pad tracing. What I like about these options is that there is something for everyone depending on your preferences and taste, so this one also stands out a lot for me. Another mod that enhances the details a bit is also Improved Bottles and Tableware mod. It enhances how bottles, or at least shading inside of it with liquid, looks like, which makes it even better. When I mod, I like to touch on the smallest details, and this one really impressed me so far. Definitely check this one out if you want to really push the most out of this game, especially in the terms of textures or details. Next two mods will be about enhancing smoke, fire and explosions textures, or well, reimagining them a bit. First being the smoke enhancement, which makes smoke or fog in general more prevalent, as you can see it in the gameplay, especially in Pacifica and Combat Zone. I like it a lot because it raises atmosphere even more and makes it stand out. This works great with fire and explosions overhaul that adds more effects to the fire burning in battles, random cars and locations around Night City, especially when it comes to explosions and how fire starts around after explosion happens. Very cool combo to have with a loot of your choosing. Also during the night I really like how fire looks in some areas, especially again as I said in Pacifica, being that well you have a lot of homeless people there and a lot of people trying to get into the combat zone or out of it, so it's going to give out that vibe. After gameplay and looks, let's go into weapons and cyberware. You can add starting with legendary Auto 9 pistol used by Robocop. Overall model of the gun is good, but what I really like is how precise and strong it is in combat. It also gives plus 150% headshot multiplier damage, which makes it deadly if you are precise, with firing one bullet at a time while aiming, and shooting from the hip does a burst attack, firing, multiple bullets for more overall damage. Definitely get this mod. You can add it with console or buy it from the weapons vendor in downtown starting at level 17. Another gun I like is Kriss Vector. Very good SMG that can deal a lot of damage if you are going for a reflex build. Very precise with not a lot of bullet spread, so it makes it, running and gunning relatively fun. It also gives you plus 100% headshot damage multiplier, and as it is with previous weapon, you can spawn it in console or buy it from Pacifica weapons vendor starting at level 17. Next on the list is another cyberware or deck, Militech Canto Mark 7, which is an upgraded version of Canto MK6 that gives you pretty much a faster and deadlier black wall gateway attack that, pretty much destroys anyone it hits, especially if you combine it with net running perks allowing it to spread more and faster to enemies which are close. Some of its pluses are enemies take 60% longer to trace you, no RAM cost on succeeding quick hack upload, faster upload speeds and so on. You can get this from Herald, the black market vendor in the combat zone, or just spawn it through the console itself, which is a bit easier to do. Now modders have been adding new weapons into the game constantly now. Of course it depends if you want a more lore friendlier weapons or not, but M4A1 Carbine is now added, meaning that you can have a really cool standalone weapon that is also nice to shoot. There are some clipping issues with the hand, for example, on the trigger at the time of recording this video, so it might be updated by the time this video is out. Very precise weapon and good to handle if you are going for that, sort of a build. Spawn it through a console or get it from a Pacifica weapons vendor at level 17. Besides this version of M4, you also have another weapon pack that gives you Heckler Koch HK416 M4 and the XM7 from Sig Sauer, along with attachments and scopes you can put on the weapons to make them stand out even more. Overall, I love the design and the model of the weapon in game, and it's also very precise and does a lot of damage during combat. You have to either buy it from various vendors or add it through the console. Just keep in mind that there are quite a bit of codes to add because, well, each attachment is its own item which allows you to fully customize your kit. Highly recommended. Next on the list is a new design for Sovereign Shotgun, that being Alabaster Gold. Overall, very nice, skin giving it a white and gold look while not influencing stats of the weapon or how it performs in general. So a very good, just the skin if you're using Sovereign and you want to have a different version of it. Now speaking of the Vector gun, there is another Cyberpunk version of the gun called Vector 77 that brings a powerful DMR inspired by the original. Looks wise, it's great and it's indeed, packing a punch when you shoot it at enemies. Of course, it takes a bit of practice to get the hang of recoil, but when you do, it shreds through gongs like nothing else. It has a 100% headshot damage multiplier and 25% armor penetration, and you get it from Pacifica vendor or again at level 17 or just the spawn through console as usual. Next weapon on the list is the AKM from the movie Elysium with Matt Damon. Good film if you want to watch it as well, pretty good futuristic view on humanity, but one of the things which stood out from this is this AKM. Model-wise, it's nice. Shooting-wise, it can depend. If you go from the hip, there is definitely some recoil and spread, but you can also get the version with a laser helping with accuracy. But once you aim down the sights, the actual accuracy is pretty good. If you want a more Cyberpunk-esque weapon, then get this one. Now this mod pack is a hefty one, but this mod brings a lot of weapons from Call of Duty games, believe it or not, like SR25, Staccato, AK-G3, Desert Eagle, Glock, and you know, so on and so on to the game. Even though it's not lore friendly, I really like the quality of the models implemented and how in general weapons perform in the game. Keep in mind that this mod file is about 1.1 GB, so download will take a while depending on your speeds or if you have premium or not on Nexus. But I think it was well worth, you know, just to play around with it in case I wanted to build a more Spec Ops playthrough just to spice things up. There is truly a lot of weapons in this pack, and even just the skins or the look of the weapons are nice, being it doesn't give you stock versions of every single weapon, but rather upgraded ones. You obtain the weapons at most sellers again after level 17 or through the console. After guns, let's talk about new vehicles added, and after that clothing and other miscellaneous mods. First on the list is the legendary Delorean DMC-12, which comes in few variants, first off being a normal stock version alongside with a wide body kit, and the one which is the version from Back to the Future, so fully from the actual films. I kept the original look, or at least that's what I mostly use, but every single other one is just fantastic. Car looks great texture wise. Inside of the car itself, it looks as closer to the original as possible, and mostly it drives and sounds great. Acceleration alongside with top speed is normal and doesn't go into extremes to make it undrivable, but this car is optimized great, being that it performs good on turns, braking and so on. Definitely one of the must-have mods from this list. Next up we will go into more mainstream vehicles, first one being BMW M1, which looks great especially with the wide body kit. As with previous car, textures and modeling work is great, and driving wise it performs really good, with a strong acceleration, meaning you have to keep balance, of the car a bit once starting out, but once the gear changes, it's a whole different story with speeds, making it a fun vehicle for racing as well. Speaking of BMW, we also have 2021 M4 Competition, probably one of my favorite cars from them, and in game it looks really good, interior as well. Also, even though this is a relatively fast vehicle, it still performs great on the road, and if you want some luxury and style in your playthrough and you don't really care for being too lore friendly, then get this one. That's the beauty of modding, is that you can tailor the experience how you want for yourself. Also, car comes with multiple colors, so you can choose which one you like the most. Moving away from the European manufacturers, next on the list is the legendary Ford Mustang SVT Cobra from 2003. Model-wise, it looks phenomenal in-game, and as it is with other cars that I put on this list, handling, acceleration and top speeds are good, meaning that the car won't randomly spin out or do some crazy stuff. It's great for some light cruising around the city. In case you want an even faster Mustang, Shelby GT500 has also been added into the game. Great for racing and even vehicle combat, since I noticed it goes around corners surprisingly well and can hold its own against bullets hitting your vehicle. Do keep in mind that this is not a weaponized vehicle at the same time, so you have to shoot from your actual weapon, like pistol or something. Of course, the exterior and interior are fantastic as well. After cars, let's move on to bikes with Cyberpunk Edge Bikes collection that features 1 custom model and 10 custom appearances. And overall, bikes looks insanely good. Whatever design you choose to get, especially how some LEDs will pulse through the bike, and also on the performance side, it's fantastic. It's really lore friendly actually, so it won't stand out from the world, but will still be great for playthroughs or in case you got tired of the bikes you already have in the game. Highly recommend this one, it's one of my favorites. After vehicles, let's move on to clothing and appearance mods, with the first one being a fantastic collection of Cyberarms that you can get through Virtual Atelier. There is a huge variety, going from the usual Arasaka Cyberarms to more bulky Barghest ones, even down to more visual ones like Valentino's arms that will give you that extra style layer. Also, this mod is great because of how easy it is to change it in the wardrobe, meaning, that I remember when Cyberpunk released, putting on Cyberarms was a lot more tedious process, but this collection makes it super easy to navigate through. Another cool clothing piece are Oda's pants you can also wear now. I love the texture and model work on this, and as always it comes in various styles and colors, so you can mix and match with your own fit and decide how you actually want to look, but overall I love these pants. It's actually great for both male and female option. Next up we have the knife holster calf and belt you can attach to your character for some extra style, or maybe you're going for the knife's build, so you just want to make your character look, and reflect that even more, especially because it also comes in various colors or camo versions. Now, because in this mod list we added the Call of Duty weapon pack, you also have the full, believe it or not, ghost attire that you can wear, and even though it's not from the same universe and, lore one thing at a side, which, it is what it is, one thing which I really like is the quality of the outfit in general. It is extremely detailed, and even zooming into clothing we can see it looks really good. Kind of a bonus mod, but I recommend this one as well. Also make sure to get Abdi's Armor Atelier for easier and more immersive buying, but one thing I would change there are the prices in Atelier, being that they're kinda high. I believe I paid like 100k eddies for like the whole suite you can get, like every single clothing piece or just one piece which actually arrives, especially when it comes to the current economy of the game. Yeah, you can spawn the money, but it can still be a bit cheaper to get in case you decide, not to use the console and go through the actual Atelier. For the end we have another great solo pose pack collection for female V. It adds a whopping 55 poses to use either, with scene creation in AMM or plainly for photo mode. I like this one a lot. Has a lot of great poses to choose from, and I'm glad that even if you're using like custom clothing, most of that clothing won't clip, or well, the actual poses are not gonna be clipping through clothing, so a lot of thought has been put into this. Actually, I use a lot of the poses in this pack for my thumbnails because just how great they have been made, so definitely huge props for the mod author or authors on this. And these were all of the mods for today. There is truly a lot to choose from the modding community, but sadly putting more would stretch this video too much, and I will leave some for the next modding showcase video. As always, links are down below, and if you enjoy these mods, don't forget to tip mod authors on the website for their work. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe for more. Join our community on Twitter and Discord, and huge thanks to my current Patreon supporters. And as always, stay classy everyone, and we'll see you chooms in a new video. Bye bye.